Now you're ready to tie them into a bracelet. So there, I'm going to show you how to do a really simple way where you can just tie it onto your wrist when you're done. And then I'm also going to show you an optional way that does a sliding knot so that the bracelet is adjustable. So it can be big, and then you just have to pull these again and tighten it up to be adjustable for whatever size you want. It's a little bit more complicated. It's a lot of knots, but it's not too hard. So it's your choice, and I will show you how to do that. So the first thing, we'll do this one, is you need 2 pieces of cord. Well, this is hemp cording, about a foot long, maybe a little bit more, but about a foot. And you need 2 of those pieces. And what you do is you fold them in half, so have the ends meet. So you have a loop at one end, and then just the tails at the other end. And you're going to take that looped end, and you have a choice. You can put the looped end up from the bottom, poking through the top. Doesn't want to go through. There we go. All right, so now you have your loop end at the front of the bracelet, and you have your tails coming out the back of your bracelet. So if you just put your finger and your thumb through that loop so that you can open them, close them, see how they're in that loop, and then you're gonna just, with that finger and thumb, grab the tails. So you're going straight up over the top of your bracelet, grab the tails, and then pull those through the loop. And then you just pull it tight. And this is what it looks like on the front, and you can adjust that a little bit if you want it. If you have a pointed end like this, you can pull it around like that so it pulls tight. Now with the other one, I'm going to show you what it looks like if you do the loop down from the top of the bracelet down through the bottom. So you fold it in half again. You've got your loop at one end, your tails at the other end, and this time you're going to put your loop down through the top of the bracelet so that it's coming out the back. So now you have your loop that's coming out the back. You can put your finger and your thumb through it together like that. Reach across and grab the tails, and then pull it through and pull it tight. Now it looks pretty much the same. There's just a slight difference. So you can choose which way you want to do it, if you want the loop to go down from the top through the back, or if you want the loop to go up from the back through the top. All right, so with the strings through the holes now, you get to choose what your next step is going to be. You can pretty much stop here. The last thing you would need to do is just tie a knot here in the end to hold these 2 strings together. And then when you're ready to wear it, just ask somebody to tie it onto your wrist for you, and you're all finished. Or if you want to get a little bit fancier, then you can do the kind with the sliding knot. So I'll show you that next. With this one, I'm also going to show you how to put beads on if you have beads. So it's just the same. You've got a piece about a foot long. The more beads you have, the longer you need it to be, because you'll be tying some extra knots. So maybe a little bit longer than a foot. But again, you just fold it in half. So you have a loop at one end, tails at the other end. My favorite way is to go down through the top. So here we have, again, put our finger and our thumb through that big loop, reach around, grab the tails, pull it through.
Pull it tight. And then you'll get the other one, do the same thing. Fold it in half. You've got your loop through the hole. Thumb and finger there, pull the tails through. Okay, and now you've got your 2 knots.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to thread one of these beads on here. I'm going to put both tails through the one hole down to here. And you can leave it so it can slide around. I want it to stay pretty much right next to it, so I'm going to tie a knot that will hold it in place. So I make a loop, and then with the tails I stick it through, and then I'm going to slide that knot down right next, as close, well, yeah, close to the bead. All right, so I left a little bit of space, so I'm going to try to match that space on this side. There, and that will help those beads from moving around too much. All right, so then the next step is going to be to make the sliding knot. So you're going to turn your bracelet over, and you're going to just cross the two sets of strings. You're not going to tie a knot yet or anything. They're just crossing each other. And you're going to put your hand in and see how big you want your loop to be. You want it to be just big enough that you can slip your hand in there. So that's still a little bit big. I'm going to go a little tighter. That should be good. And now holding it in that same place, you're going to cut about 1 inch away from where the pieces cross each other. So now we have the cross and then 1 inch out. So then we take it, go ahead and let it go. And now you're going to tie a little knot at the end of each side. So you make your loop and tuck the tail ends through. Now you want this knot to be as close to the end as possible. So what I do is I grab the tail ends right here and hold them really tight, and then I push that knot down to the end so that it's just right there at the very end. And now I have a knot, that's an extra string, I have a knot at each end. Okay, so with the knots in both ends, now I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to just lay the two pieces next to each other on my fingers like that. So they're just sitting next to each other. They're not crossing, they're just sitting next to each other. And I'm going to get another piece of string, a third piece that's about 6 to 8 inches long. And this string I'm going to put underneath the bracelet pieces. So you can see here's the string underneath the bracelet pieces. Then I'm going to wrap them around and I'm going to tie a knot. So I want to keep track of which side, whether it's the left side or the right side, I want to keep track of which side I'm crossing over first when I do this knot. So let me get those down here again. Okay, I'm going to put it so that the left side, this one right here, is on top. And that same piece of string is going to wrap around and come up through the bottom and tie. Okay, so I've got both sides of the bracelet inside this knot I just made. I'm going to pull the bracelet out there. So see how it's held inside that knot? Okay, now those strings are going to go underneath. And this time, they're going to cross underneath, but I want the right side, this side, to cross over the top, loop around behind and come up through, and then we'll pull that tight. Okay, we're going to basically repeat that about 3 times. So this time the ends are up here. It's going to be the left on top again, left on top, goes back behind, up through the hole, and we're going to pull it tight. Now this time I want this knot to end up right next to the last knot, so that there's a row of 2 knots. Then we're going to go underneath again. This time it's going to be the right side on top, going back around behind and through the hole. And we're going to pull it tight again. And one more set.
So up on top, left side on top of the right side. It goes down and under and through the hole. Ends up right next to the last knot. So now we have 3 knots in a row. We go down underneath. This time it's the right side on top. Goes back behind and through. And we pull it up and tighten it.
Okay, so that's the main part of our sliding knot. But now we got to finish it off. So we're going to do just a traditional square knot on top. So strings up on top again, left on top of the right, and the left goes down through the hole, pull it tight, and then without going underneath, being on top again, this time I'm going to put the right side right here on top of the left. That string's going to go down and up through the hole and pull it tight. And that finishes off our knot. Now we just need to trim these little ends. Okay, now this knot, we'll let these slide through, so we can slide these so it's big enough to fit my arm, my hand through. And then you just need to grab hold of these little knots and pull those through so you can adjust it to whatever size it needs to be. So that is how you do that. I know it's a lot of knots, and knots are tricky, especially when you're trying to watch someone do it on film. I'm going to show you this slip knot again, but with some different colored thread so that you can see a little bit more clearly how to do it. All right, I'm going to try this now with a colored piece of yarn to see if I can help you see a little bit better how we're doing this. All right, so we've got our bracelet pieces just sitting right next to each other like this. And now this red string is going to go underneath like that. And now we're going to bring that red string around and we're going to tie a knot on top of those bracelet pieces. So I'm going to start by doing the left side, this side over here, on top of the right side, in front of the right side. Okay, so right now it's in front, and it's going to wrap around behind and come up through the loop that it made. And it's going to close that tight. Okay, so now we've got the bracelet pieces inside the knot. Okay, so that knot was on top. Now we're going to go underneath the bracelet pieces. Last time we did the left side on top of the right side, so this time we're going to go with the right side right here, and it's going to stack on top of the left, or you could think of it as being in front of the left. So it's in the right side is in front of the left. Now it's going to wrap around behind and come up through the loop and pull tight. Now we're going to go on top again, and this time it's going to be the left side. It's going to cross on top of the right side. So there it is in front of the right side, on top of the right side. It's going to go back behind and up through the loop. Pull it tight. Now we're going to go underneath again. And this time it's going to be the right side, this one right here. It's going to go on top of the left side. It's going to go back around behind and come through the loop. Tie it again. Now we're back on top.
Left side, crosses over the right, goes around behind, comes through the loop, ties. Now we're back underneath. We're going to go to the right side, in front of the left side, so it goes back around behind, up through the loop, pull it tight.
Now our last square knot on top, we're back on top again. The left side on top of the right side, down underneath and up through the loop. Pull it tight, and then staying up above. Now we're going to do the right side on top of the left side, goes down underneath and through the loop, pull it tight, and then you can just cut those tails off. And you have your sliding knot. So if you pull these tight, you can make the bracelet really small. If you pull them loose, you can make the bracelet really loose. So that is your sliding knot.